Well, hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel, and this ginormous thing. So, in this video, what I want to do is I want to get this torn down and all the metal bits and plastic stuff and everything cleaned up. We do have some repairs to make. It came with a broken lower link. Somebody has repaired that once or twice with some super glue, so that may be interesting to try to actually fix the rod end there. But overall, it's in great shape. It just is nasty. It just got a layer of, I'm assuming probably like nicotine stain, but the body has like a, I mean it's dusty, it's been sitting here for a while, but it has like a film on it. The wheels, you know, you can rub your finger in there and, you know, it's brown, black goo coming off of it. It's been sitting around for entirely too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this all stripped down. I'm going to basically strip it down as far as I think I need to go. Like, I might crack the gear cases open. If everything inside looks good, then I'll probably just stick them back together and just clean them up on the outside. But if they're full of bushings, then I'll probably go ahead and do a full tear down on those, put bearings in and everything. I have no idea what to expect. This was a Buyee purchase from a while ago. The body is in good condition. It's got some scuffing on the edges and the back of the cab and, you know, a few spots. But I think a good clean and maybe some plastic polish, bring that back to life. And then just, I think just a good scrubbing of everything, put it back together, fix the parts that need to be fixed. Fingers crossed I don't find anything else in there that is broken that needs to be replaced, because finding parts for these is a pain. So I'm just going to hush. I'm going to go ahead, get it all torn down. I'll take some pictures of it, kind of show you some of the grossness. May not come over the camera super well, because like I said, it's not like dirty. It's just age funk. Alright guys, I'm going to get to tearing this thing down. I'll take some pictures along the way of it getting torn down, of it getting cleaned up, you know, put back together, all that good stuff. And then we'll come back with hopefully a shinier, you know, functioning version of this. Alright guys, so we are midway through. Everything is cleaned up. I left the chassis as big as I could. Just really no point in tearing it all down, just to clean it up. I was able to clean up everything on that. All the links have cleaned up really nice. Before, You know, one half of it was silver, one half of it was brown, so all those are cleaned up. The drive shafts are actually silver now instead of that yellowy gold color. The plastics, for the most part, cleaned up really well. There's some little tiny cracks and crevices and stuff where I couldn't get all the gunk out, but it's good enough. I mean, the battery tray's got some scuffs and scars in it from having a battery roll around. Did not take the gearbox apart. Ran it. Everything sounds fine. One thing I didn't know is this has a match pair of motors on here. It's the RS540SH, and then it has a something dash 2H and a something dash 3H. So I'm assuming it doesn't matter. You know, they're still going to be both spinning in the same direction, turning a common gear. But I just thought it was interesting that, you know, there's a 2H and a 3H motor in there. Well, everything cleaned up really well. I was toying with just taking this entire tray out and making another tray out of carbon fiber or black cardstock or something, and just sticking a 880 ESC and receiver in it and running it like that, and then sticking this all back in. But I decided what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick in a modern receiver and run all this with exactly the way it was. By the looks of this thing, it ran a handful of times way back in the day, and everything looks perfect. It has both original Sandwall receiver. I mean, it has both original Sandwall servos in here. Servo saver's still good. Not going to be the most powerful thing in the world. I had planned on sticking in, an Amazon 40 kg servo, which is probably overkill. But I don't really plan on running this a lot. It's probably going to be, like a lot of them, run once in a blue moon. And, the vintage stuff will be fine. This I did not take apart. I did take the cover off of the mechanical speed controller. But basically I cleaned everything in place here the best I could. The protectors are still very yellow. I could replace them. I have extras. But, that kind of takes away from it. So I'm leaving those somewhat yellow. The Tamiya plug's still fairly yellow. That's just aging. But the wire's cleaned up nice. The cover, you could barely see through it before, and now it's crystal clear. So that's really nice. So yeah, I was going to stick a regular receiver in there and, rock and roll. Axle's cleaned up well. All four of the front bumper mounts were broken off. This one was broken off badly and super glued a couple times. But this one broke off, taking it off. This one's got a crack in there. It's about ready to snap off. This one's got a huge crack in there. It's about ready to snap off. So all four of those need to be replaced. The body posts are banana shaped. I could probably heat those back up and get them to stay in the right spot. But I have a tub of parts here. So I have body mounts. So I have two of those. So I'll have to salvage the best two out of that and use these two. We have rod ends. I think I do need to replace a couple of these. Seem to be somewhat stripped. I did get a set of steering knuckles, but those were all fine, so those are just spares. Now these, I have four of the front bumper stays, mounts, whatever. I do have the upgraded pivot blocks, but all the gray ones are still, they're not cracked, they're not stressed, they're not stripped, so I'm just going to put those back on. So really, these four are the main things that I needed. I got those from Tamico a while ago, and they're not the gray color that the stock ones are, but they are like the more heavier duty plastic, so hopefully they won't break. But cleaning this thing up took forever. I still need to rebuild the shocks. Well, just check the fluid levels. None of them sound squishy, so I don't know whether either they're full of fluid, which they feel like it, or they're out of fluid. but they feel and sound like they have fluid in there. So I'm going to crack a cap on one of them if they're full of fluid and the fluid's not dingy, but we're just going to rock and roll with that. The axles cleaned up really well. I did not tear these down. I did take the caps off of both of them, because basically it's just a bunch of screws up here. You take this cap off, and it has the input gear going to a counter gear, which then goes down to the diff. All of that was pristine. So all I did was I just globbed a little bit more ceramic grease in there, so there's a little bit more lubrication in there, because there was very, very little. And I just cleaned these up as a whole. But yeah, as far as broken parts, knock on wood, we're still in the clear. I've got to clean up a little bit more hardware. Like I said, all the silver screws were orange. But the body, oh my god. So this is the body now. It's actually shiny and looks good. I still think that this may need a little bit more cleaning. But it is a million times better than it was. I got most of the red scuff out of it. And I mean, it's used. It's got some scratches and scars in it. But man, this thing, that was the rag. No. Yeah, that was the rag from the body. So this was just cleaning the brown off of the body. Then this was cleaning the rest of the brown off the body after it dried. This was what was basically the axles and some other bits and pieces. And this one was kind of like the last go over and, find a little spot here and there. And that was just the stuff I cleaned up on the bench. Most of the plastic parts, the chassis, the links, the shocks, everything but the axles and the transmission and the body was basically cleaned off in hot soapy water upstairs. These are just the rags from down here. So this thing was gross. So now comes the part where I gotta go find the instruction manual to remember exactly where things go. So I'm gonna get back to building, and once I have it back together, then we'll come back and there'll be more than just chassis sitting here and lots of parts. See you guys in a minute. So yeah, no slideshow there. Sorry about that. That just kind of didn't happen. I started putting things back together, and next thing I know, the truck was done. I think I took 2 pictures, maybe. So let's get on with the rest of it. Well, alright guys, so here is the rebuilt truck. It's actually got a shiny body and silver parts. Everything works how it should. Now, getting here, well, that was a little interesting. So, like I said, no surprises on what parts need to be replaced. And I kind of like the overall black look of the front and the rear now. Before it had the gray side pieces with the black centerpiece, and it looked weird. Now it just kind of all blends in. Everything is black down there, and it looks like it's supposed to be there. So I don't know whether the gray was like early release and then they changed to the black stuff, or the stuff from Tamiya is more modern and better plastics. Regardless, everything is working. Now, there were some hiccups along the way. One was my own fault, twice. So the rear links have the sway bar mounted to them, and didn't really need to take them apart, so I didn't. So basically you had 2 links coming down and then the sway bar going in between. It made it easy to take off kind of in one piece, and made it easy to go back on in one piece, except for the rear, because I put the rear on upside down, which, other than aesthetics and stuff, not that big of a deal. But I was like, that's not right, let's fix it. So I took it off, put it back on, and then about 20 minutes later, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I put it back on wrong again. So I had to tear that back off and put it back on again. So the body did get some shine back to it. I've had to clean this thing like 3 times, And every time I thought it was clean, you know, it dried. It still had hazy spots and crud in the corners and stuff like that. So I finally got it clean, and then I just used some McGuire's wax to put on it and try to bring back some shine. And it did. It helped kind of seal in some of the little micro scratches and give a nice little shine. So I decided I wanted to go ahead and leave the mechanical speed controller in here. And after I said that, I was like, I wonder if it even works. So once we got everything put back together, I put the new receiver in there, turned it on, and well, everything was working. I had to really turn down the throw of it, but everything was working for a moment. And then all of a sudden I lost, because it's a 3-stage forward, 3-stage reverse mechanical speed controller, and I lost the first 2 steps. So basically you only had high power and high power on it, which is not good. So took it apart, cleaned everything internally on it, and still wasn't working. Then I'm like, okay, the only thing left is the resistor. And since first and second was not working on either, that all goes through the resistor, and third bypasses the resistor. So I was like, okay, let's check the resistor. And sure enough, one of the legs of the resistor had rusted and just was not making good contact. So I guess it was working until it decided, no, that little bit of contact we have left isn't enough. So took it apart, cleaned it, sanded up the legs on the terminals and everything, and now everything seems to be working fine. I do have a modern day receiver in here, just because I didn't feel like digging around and trying to match crystals and all that stuff to get something to work. Just wanted to put something in that I know I could have the tunability to turn down the steering, turn down the mechanical speed control, you know, adjust the rates, adjust the throws, all that good stuff. So the Radio Link was a better, easier option. So yeah, we can turn it on. Now we have low to high. So everything works as it's supposed to. So no running in this video, unfortunately. Just don't. I'll get it out and get it run very soon, but I want to make sure it's dry out there. I don't want to be slinging dirt and mud all over this one after I just spent hours and hours and hours cleaning it up. Tires still have some dirt on them, but they're as clean as they're going to get. Cleaning out these big chevrons is a pain, and every time you think you get them clean, they dry, and you see dirt kind of on all the cracks in the corners and everything. But they are as clean as they're going to get, and you can see the front one. You might be able to see it has a flat spot in it, but they're good enough for running. You know, they're not dry rotted. They're not. I mean, they're starting to show some minor cracking, but they're great for right now. There's no point in spending $65-$70 to get new tires on it just to run it once, and that's probably all I'm going to run it. You know, I've got so many other things I can run big monster trucks that I can bash around and beat up, and if something breaks, I can go down to the hobby shop and buy parts for it versus, you know, scouring the internet for 8 months and spending way too much on parts. Thankfully, the stuff you can get through Tamiya is reasonable. Well, when I bought it, I don't know what it is now with tariffs and all that crap. So new parts is the front and rear pieces here, the side pieces that mount the suspension to the lower suspension, the servo, all that stuff. So it's these 2 side pieces. The middle piece was reused. I did replace, I think, 2 or 3 of the rod ends and replace the 2 front body mounts. I only had 2, so the rears, I was able to just take the lighter, heat them up just a little bit, bend them back straight, kind of slightly overbent them, and just blew on them until they were cool, and they straightened out nicely. And they also look better that they're not sticking way up here now. Speaking of the rod ends, this thing has the most ornery rod ends to get on. one, they're very, very tight, which is good. You know, they're not going to pop off. That's for damn sure. You feel like you're going to break something every time you try to pull one off. But pushing them back on, especially these top two here, were a pain because there's no way to get a pair of pliers on there. A lot of the other ones, you can kind of get a pair of pliers on there in some manner to help clip them on. These, no. I basically just had to put the axle on the bench and push down on them as hard as I could. It felt like I was going to snap the axle in half before those things actually clicked into place. The other one that was a royal pain was the rear lockout. So basically you have a long rod going from this to this, and then there's a shorter one that goes from this tire or this steering block to the center of the kind of axle guard here, and there's a little ball stud screwed into that. Getting that snapped onto that, it was a royal pain because one, you're shaped like this, so anytime you try to push it, it just wants to slide everywhere. So it was no, that thing was no pain. But yeah, other than cussing the ball joints or the ball studs, everything went back together well. Everything was built well. You know, I didn't find any goof ups or oddness other than the goof ups with me putting the rear links on wrong a couple times. Okay, so I'm gonna just stop yabbering. You guys, you know what the truck is. You guys saw it torn down. Obviously, the rebuild, it wasn't any real pictures done. I just kind of turned the radio on, started digging through the manual, and was kind of having to jump back and forth because, you know, steps this through this were already done. So I just need to go here, and then I need to go here, and then I had to flip back to the back to see, you know, when do I have to put these pieces on. So it was a little bit different than, you know, just sitting down from a fully stripped out kit or a brand new kit and starting from, you know, step one going to the end. So between just jumping around, you know, stopping and starting a few times, I think I ended up, it was like 3 different sessions sitting down here getting this thing finished. So it just never, you know, lent itself to me remembering, hey, dummy, take pictures. So, ta-da! I will leave you guys off with some pictures of it sitting outside. Hopefully a little bit more up close, and you can see a little bit better of the cleaned up truck. And like I said, I will get it run very soon. Just not in the cards right now. Anyway, guys, as always, everybody be happy, be healthy, be safe. I will catch you guys on the next one. And next one coming up is either going to be the run of this, the run of the Typhon Grom with the Beetle body, or possibly me starting the Yokomo. I'm not sure yet. Take care, guys.